Hey y'all, I wanted to talk to you briefly about this essay that I have pulled up here on my laptop. It is probably one of the best argumentative essays that I've read in a long time, and as you can see, it's rather dated. This student wrote it in 2018, and I'm still talking about it and still think it's one of the best essays I've ever read. He has chosen to argue for that there is the existence of white privilege in America. And we know that because of the title. Please do not forget that you really need a title in your essay, okay? There are some issues within this essay, just like any other really great essay. They're never going to be perfect. You can't get your essay to be perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect paper. There's just a finished paper. There's just a paper that is due, but there is no perfect paper. This one comes very close, but does indeed have some issues. And remember that one of the best ways that you can make sure that your essay succeeds and receives a high grade is through the deployment of a brilliant and strong thesis statement. This thesis statement is excellent. If you look here, it's the last sentence in the first paragraph, which typically is where they go. He's introduced the concept of white privilege. He's introduced, the place that we're going to be discussing it occurring in, which is the United States. And he has talked about exactly what it is, the idea that white people receive special benefits solely on the basis of their skin color. And here at the end of this paragraph, he says, this is his thesis statement: white privilege is a chronic issue in America and presents itself most prevalently in the criminal justice system, the education system, and in the general perceptions of those who live here. Okay, so we know so many things just from this one thesis statement. We know what we're going to be discussing. We know the parameters in which we are going to be considering it. It is, geographically, the parameters. We're talking about the United States. And we also know the roadmap that we're going to take. We're going to talk about it within the criminal justice system, education system, and within the perceptions of the people who live here. And so he begins, as one does in something like this, to really dig into the best way in his mind to define the term. White privilege is best defined as perks and advantages that white people experience solely based on the color of their skin. So we get this as the definition, and we know that this is what he is going to be working from. And he goes on to define it a little more specifically. These can range from a small perk, such as a white person finding band-aids in their skin tone, to complex problems such as a black person's higher likelihood to be arrested than a white person. Then he makes use of some resources that he found. He brings in something written by Jennifer Holliday, former director of Teaching Tolerance. So we know that this is someone who is an expert. We know that this is someone who has something to say that's worthwhile to listen to. Jennifer Holliday, former director of Teaching Tolerance, provides excellent commentary and clarity on the essence of white privilege. She asserts that white privilege is, quote, not something white people necessarily do, but rather an unearned advantage that is instituted in society. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is brilliant. This is so good. It makes me want to cry even now, because it is so good. He has done everything that you want to do when incorporating the words of someone else. Notice that at no point he says, Jennifer Holliday says, this is not something white people necessarily do, period. No. He introduces who this person is, why they matter. He incorporates what she has said into the larger argument that he's making. and he does that right here. He puts it within the sentence itself, along with his own language. He doesn't merely write, "She says this." That is a terrible way to incorporate a quote. This, on the other hand, is a great way to incorporate a quote. So if you are not sure how to incorporate a quote into what you are saying and into what you are writing, please come back and look at this essay, because it is super duper. He goes on. This is a great transitional sentence right here into the next paragraph. Now that there is a set understanding of what exactly white privilege is, we can look at the three biggest arguments in favor of the existence of white privilege. The first case for white privilege lies within the walls of correctional facilities, etc., etc. And then he gives us some data to help back up this claim. You cannot make a claim and not provide some data. You cannot make a claim and not provide some backing for that claim. If you do that, you're just some yahoo projecting out into the world what you think. And that's not a good argument. That's just you pontificating. Nobody needs that. What we need and what we want are sound arguments that are backed up with even better data, or even better citations and quotes from other people who know more than we do. So please make sure that when you are choosing your resources, and then you are choosing the portions of your resources to quote from, that you are careful and thoughtful and choose the best bits of your text that you can. So he goes on. And you see that he moves from this discussion here into college education. He gives us some more statistics. He's appealing to logos, which is great. For some people, that's the best type of backing that you can get. For other people, it's not as good as some other types of backing, but being able to whip out some numbers and some resources go a long way towards establishing that you know exactly what the heck you're talking about. And now we know, without him having to use that tried and true, terrible old in conclusion, he says, a final indicator of white privilege is the general perception of white people in comparison to people of color. So we have here a gesture towards the fact that he is closing things out without him having to say that specifically. He's just saying, this is the last piece that I'm going to talk about. So we know that we're getting to the end of the essay. He's making use of some really good quotes and citations. He's making use of very reliable resources. He's also exploring some of the counterclaims or counter arguments that people make in reaction to this argument that he's making. Frequent counter arguments are, I wasn't here when slavery happened, or white people struggle too, are common comebacks when white privilege is brought up. And he goes on and he lets the air right out of those arguments. And then he comes to the very end of his argument and he sums it all up kind of in a nice little package here. White privilege is a chronic issue in America and presents itself most prevalently in the criminal justice system, the education system, and in the general perceptions of those who live here. Now, this part right here is one of the places where I would say that he could have done a little bit more work. It's fine to restate your thesis statement, but try to restate it in another way. Try to and that doesn't mean just shift the words around. Is there another way that he could have said this? he could have said this in a number of other ways. And, I'm not just talking about moving the words around like the criminal justice system, the education system, and the general perceptions of those who live here are the places where this is most frequently seen, and white privilege is a chronic issue, period. I mean, no, because that's essentially the same thing. Paraphrase yourself, restate your thesis statement in another way. And then he closes with, the best way to combat white privilege is to acknowledge its existence and advocate for the justice of your fellow humans. White, black, Hispanic, no matter your race, you have a voice to speak out against racial division and stand up for a better future. This is a great way to close out your argumentative essay. He has found a problem that he sees in his community, i.e., the United States, and he has argued that this thing is actually legitimately a problem, which it is. And he has said, here's how we need to fix it. The first way that we can go about doing it is being aware of it. So if you are up against the wall and you're not sure how you're going to argue your essay, come in here and look at this and read over this essay, because it is super duper. He's done a great job of every piece of it. His citations, his works cited page, his organization, all of it is great. It is super. If you emulate what he does, then you will be well on your way to succeeding with this essay. Keeping that in mind, it is from 2018, so some of the MLA stuff might have changed, but regardless of what year MLA or what edition it is, MLA is always going to require that you not have that highly annoying extra line between your paragraphs. And it's always going to require you to double space. So, and other things. So make sure that you have your MLA correct, or you will lose some really silly points to lose. So, please try to make sure you get that right. And make sure that you've got that really strong thesis statement, the really reliable resources, and your essay will get a big fat A just like Stevens did.